Welcome to the Longevity Optimization Podcast, where we discuss longevity, optimal health, nutrition, peak performance, cognitive excellence, and so much more.
All right, Mike, it's a pleasure to have you here with me today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here in this beautiful, acoustically perfect treehouse you have.
Thank you.
I guess it's not a treehouse, but it feels like one from the inside.
It actually does. Yeah, you're the first person that's called it a treehouse.
Oh, look,
but I like it.
We're like up in the trees.
I know, up in the palm trees. So today we're going to be talking about a super important topic, something that everyone that lives indoors should be thinking about, or lives at all, actually, should be thinking about. And we're going to talk about air quality, your air filter, which you sent me the first one, I think, a couple of months ago, and I've been obsessed with. It's the Jaspr. So I want to start with air quality problems in general. Like, I feel if you're in the health industry, you're aware that something's going on here. But if you're not, and you've never owned an air filter, you might think that the air in your home is safe. Can you just talk to me about air quality inside, outside, the basics?
That's a lot of stuff. Yeah, so I just like to kind of level set. It's crazy to me that we even are having this conversation because how did we not pay attention to air?
Yeah.
And when we were growing up 20 years ago, you would just drink tap water. Nobody thought of anything else.
Mm-hmm.
It was just water. Water was water.
Yeah.
And then you're thinking back and you're that plastic hose water did kind of taste a little bit plasticky.
Yeah.
Maybe it was. And then eventually you discovered filtered water. In the last 10, 15 years, it's quite prevalent. Mm-hmm. And then when you go back, you realize that tap water tastes pretty horrible. You can taste the chemicals in it. So without the awareness, your taste buds weren't able to detect all the chemicals in the water. But then when you started drinking filtered water, all of a sudden you can pick up on the plastics and the chemicals, and I call it calibrating your taste buds, calibrating your sensors to detect these things. So we eat 2-3 pounds of food in a day. We drink 2 or 3 liters of water if we're really good water drinkers, and we breathe 10 to 20,000 liters of air, no matter what. You can't really do an air fast. So it's the first thing we do when we're born. It's the last thing we do when we die. And what water is to fish, fish live in water, and people live in air.
Yeah.
We don't really realize that we're living in it, which is why when you move your arms around, it kind of feels like you're swimming because you can even feel air.
Yeah.
But you can't really see it. And because you're in it, you don't notice the differential smell until you walk into a new environment. And even when you do, you get used to it very quickly.
Yeah.
So broadly speaking, because it's the only thing we do when we're awake and asleep, it's the thing we do most of in our lives, because once we stop, our lives are over.
Mm-hmm.
There's just no awareness that we're in the water.
Yeah.
So I think that's where it kind of begins. And my background was in wildfire restoration, hurricanes, floods, toxic mold cleanups. So I was testing and remediating buildings and homes. And if people were sick at home and didn't know why, we were the detective sort of who would, if somebody lived at home and they just generally felt unwell, whether they realized it or not, and then they would go camping or traveling somewhere new or another part of the world, and they'd feel great.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they came home and got sick again, and they had this aha moment, is my home making me sick?
Yeah.
And that's where we would come in to go in and do a deep dive in their home and figure out, we were like the MRI or the functional medicine doc for the home. So go do a lot of testing and figure out is your home making you sick? And more than almost always, the indoor environment was very poor. So indoor air is 5 to 10 times dirtier than outdoor air, and that's average, and it can get a lot worse than that. So that's just kind of a little bit of a level set on. I only discovered it because I was testing people's air before, during, and after I would clean up their mold situation. And what insurance companies and buildings were considering good was kind of when your regular family doc, if you aren't really on a proactive health journey, they're we're doing a blood test. They don't even tell you what it is. It's just blood. And then they call you if you have cancer or something. But if you're not dying this week, nobody even calls you. You don't even know what they're testing for. No one was optimizing for optimal. They were just optimizing for not critical. And then the exact same thing is true in our indoor environments.
Yeah, absolutely. I am really concerned with indoor environments. I've done ERMI testing. I've had multiple people come out and do inspections just because, I would love to stay on the mold point for a second because it doesn't have to be like visible mold, right? For people to actually be exposed to it. It can be hidden somewhere, it can be in a wall. What were you kind of seeing? Like, talk about what you were finding with mold, because I don't think people understand how dangerous it can be.
So it could be very dangerous, but at the same time, it could also, they call it the mold rush. And mold is gold. Those are two sayings that are prevalently used in the mold removal industry.
Oh.
Big time. Well, think about it. If you're a contractor who's used to renovating bathrooms, maybe you get $1,000 or $2,000 for ripping up a bathroom. Maybe $4,000 or $5,000 for ripping up a basement. Add a zero to that if there was mold there.
Oh, wow.
The scope of work doesn't change very much.
Yeah.
So if you're like say you have mold in a bathroom and you're gutting that bathroom, all that really would change is we would add a 6 millimeter poly. We would basically contain the air to isolate that room. We would set up industrial air scrubbers, which are like big air purifiers, in that room and outside that room. We would surgical removal, we'd call it. We would remove the mold from the infected area. Usually it's not a huge area. We would double bag it, take it out of the house, and then we would use antimicrobial and HEPA vacuums and basically wipe the surfaces. That's mold removal. So now if we're talking about a basement, we're just containing the whole basement. If we're talking about a hotel room in a hotel, we're containing that room. So we're closing off all the vents and making sure that that environment is not sharing the air with any other environment. We're removing the mold and getting it out.
Yeah.
So your cost didn't go up 10 times.
Yeah.
The setup was a little bit longer, but because of the fear associated with the mold, the price was much higher. It set the market much, much higher.
Yeah.
And in most states and in Canada for sure, mold remediation is not a regulated industry. And when I became a certified mold remediator at the ICRC, like they're like the gold standard, floods, fire, mold, etc. It was a 2-day course.
Wow.
And lunch was a lot of that day.
Wow.
It's a 2-day course. So I got certified in floods and fire and all that stuff just because insurance wants you to have those certificates. In the actual course, like we would like watch a video of like a cigarette being tossed in a garbage and the house burns down. And they would teach us stuff like when you're done remediating a home, don't forget to use the lemon deodorizer. By the way, there's no lemons in it. To go like pump your spray all through the house because they go, if it smells clean, the customer will feel like it's clean. So this was like how we were trained in the industry.
That's horrible.
It was rough. It was bad.
Yeah.
It was really bad. And so when someone's calling like a certified mold inspector, that doesn't mean very much. Experience means everything. Credentials means nothing. It's like a several $100 2-day course. It's a joke. And I bet you they do them virtually now. So,
Probably, yeah.
So like go deep, make sure you know what you're doing. Typically the difference between a $3,000 mold removal quote and an $80,000 one, sometimes it's legit. Sometimes it's how good they are at selling fear. So I'll bring it back because I don't want to say that mold is not a problem.
Yeah.
The problem is it's the Wild West. You know, there's the ERMI, there's the aerosols, there's tape lifts, there's a bunch of different tests. And most tools, if you just use one tool, certain tools skew false negative and false positive. So the ERMI is designed to be a very alarmist tool.
Yeah.
It always comes back positive because you're testing your dust and it's red and it's scary. So ERMI was the perfect tool for a restoration company to get a blank check to do exhaustive investigative ripping your walls apart all over.
Oh, wow.
ERMI is well designed for that. So if you own a restoration company, you love when the naturopath calls you and says, hey, we got someone, we just did a mycotoxin urine test, they got the mold. You go to their house, do an ERMI, they're freaked out, you're gutting their house. Most of the time when someone leaves their house to go stay in another house, that house is probably moldier than the house they came from.
Yeah.
So like mold is everywhere. It's outside, it's inside. Florida, incredibly moldy. Arizona is incredibly moldy, even though it's the dry desert, because you have the contrast of temperatures, so you have a ton of condensation. And the reason why a lot of places get so moldy in like Florida and stuff is because a lot of hotels and buildings, like they literally turn off the air conditioner to save power.
Wow.
So they're trying to save the energy, but then because it's stagnant, the air is not moving, they get really moldy. So people should be concerned about mold.
Yeah.
Now, if you have like, first of all, mold usually smells most of the time.
Yeah.
If you have like mold to the point where it's an issue, any mold inspector who's been doing it for a while will tell you when they go into someone's house, after they've done the 2-minute walkthrough, you know if there's mold. 99.9% of the time. The rest of it's just you getting the data to show the customer. Because if you, like, the best mold inspection actually is mold dogs.
Really?
Mold canines. You
I
cannot.
didn't know that was
I was hanging out with a guy named Jason Earl last night from Got Mold, and he had like the first mold trained canine in the country.
Oh, wow.
You can't beat the mold dog. Like, these guys sniff bombs and stuff.
Wow.
So they can find mold and like they'll get you. They're precise.
I love
So
that.
if someone actually had a leak, water damage, you know, history of leaks, it could be a roof leak, it could be a kitchen leak, a bathroom leak. Follow the water, get the water removed. And if you have like real mold, call at least 3 or 4 companies.
Yeah.
Get one off Facebook Marketplace, get one off Craigslist, and get 2 off Google.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time you call the Google guy and he subs it to the Craigslist guy.
Really interesting.
Because the Google guy always charges 2 or 3 times more than the Craigslist guy, but sometimes the same person's coming to your house.
Wow.
So, but for a lot of people, it's airborne mold that can also impact them. But think about it like pollen. It's an allergen.
Yeah.
So for some people, pollen is debilitating. For other people, it's not a big deal. Also, like, how good are they at naturally detoxing? How allergic to it are they? What are the levels? So yeah, if you have physical mold, get multiple quotes and proceed cautiously. Airborne mold, it's like if you have, I usually tell people not to test their water, because if you have city water, it's always bad.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do? Spend $300, $400, $500, $600, $700, $1,000 testing your water? 100% of the time, all roads lead to getting water filtration.
Without a doubt. I would never even waste time spent water testing.
There's no point.
You can go to the EWG too, and you can look. They've done, the tests on water, and you can look up your local municipality and just find it there. Yeah, agreed.
So I felt horrible. And like, if you have bad water, do you A, rip up all your pipes and walls and replace the pipes, or B, just filter your water?
Yeah.
So like, even if you have compromised pipes and there's chlorine in the system, if there's a good filter at the point of use, whole home, sink, shower head, there's various ways you can filter your water, but it comes through a pipe and then you filter it before you consume it. With air and mold, for example, a lot of the time if people have moderately moldy air, it's an air problem. If we test, when we're doing mold testing, you're not supposed to test someone's home for 2 or 3 days after it rained.
Interesting.
No one does this. Imagine the business. We book you for a job on Wednesday. It rains Tuesday. We cancel your job.
Yeah.
You don't want to pay us. You don't want to pay the mold company. The mold company has an employee to pay. So no one. I've never met anybody that actually does that, unless there's I've never actually met someone who goes by that standard. So I was charging people $1,500 to test their air, and almost every time it was like, it's not critical, but it's pretty bad. Like, your VO is high, there is some mold, there are some chemicals, your dust is bad. You can actually get air filtration. This is when I was only in the consulting business. And then it's like, they just paid $1,500 or more. I'm like, that would have been a good air filtration budget for them.
Yeah, that's true.
So I was kind of feeling bad that I was taking, it was like charging them $1,000 to test their water. And then it's like, sorry, no budget anymore for water filtration system. We put it all into the test.
Yeah.
So that's why I kind of felt like I wanted to cross over from the ripping people's homes apart and testing their air and get to the solution side, because, if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And when your business is ripping up and gutting homes, you're kind of like indoctrinated in that world, thinking that's the only way. So it feels very good to have crossed over. So now we can just educate people about air and recommend practical solutions. And when you do have a significant mold issue, if you're a tenant, leave. It's not worth it. Almost every state, the laws are pretty tenant friendly when it comes to mold. So like, get out of there. ChatGPT is really good, by the way, at mold law. So if you're like, I'm a tenant in, name your city, I have mold in my place, give me a letter that I can send to my landlord. And is there any landlord tenant boards? If so, like, help me with that process. It's amazing. We'll give you a really scary letter to send to your landlord to make them think that they're about to get sued for all the health issues you've ever had, and your lease will be terminated. You might even get a refund.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Okay, well, I'm glad we went deep into mold a little bit there, because it's important. But what else is in the air? Like, what other particles, particulates, what are we looking for, and what are we able to filter out that can be harming us?
So outside, you have outdoor pollution and you got indoor pollution. Both of them are inside, because our indoor environments, people imagine their home is like this haven. The outdoor air comes inside and then gets more polluted indoors. It's not like, And your furnace filter, it's called the furnace filter because it's a filter for your furnace. So I use like a MERV 8. I use the weakest furnace filter I can because I want more ventilation and more airflow. Your furnace was never designed to be an air filtration unit. They don't pretend it is when you buy one. Aftermarket companies started to throw filters on furnaces, but you really decreased the efficiency and the airflow of the unit. So we actually spent a couple of years trying to develop a whole home air filter first, and we tested all of them, and it was not an effective solution. But
quick question.
Yeah.
What is this might be really not educated, but what is an HVAC system?
HVAC means, I'm glad you asked because now it reminds me that I should probably explain that. HVAC means heating, ventilation, air conditioning.
Okay.
So in HVAC, like if your furnace broke right now, who would you call? What would you
Husband.
Google? And who would he call?
That I don't know.
Okay. Before you were married, furnace is broken, it's really cold.
I was always in an apartment renting, so.
Property manager or something?
Yeah, exactly. So.
And you'd say my furnace is broken.
Yeah.
So yeah, the guy who fixes furnaces and air conditioners and vents and stuff, like what plumbers are to water, HVAC guys are to air.
Okay.
So HVAC means basically in the general residential setting, if someone says HVAC, they mean like all the mechanical furnace. They mean furnace and air conditioning in one word.
Okay.
Both those things, your heating and cooling systems.
Okay, so it's nothing to do with purification at all.
No, but a lot of people and buildings commercially, they put an air filter on the HVAC unit.
Okay.
So it's like, now my whole home will be done. But the thing is, your furnace turns on and off throughout the day. Like in LA, your furnace probably hardly ever runs.
Yeah.
Because it's already like temperate. So when that fan is not running, it's not cleaning. You're not cleaning any air. And you can't focus the attention of the clean air. So like your bedroom, someone could have a baby sleeping in a nursery and then like this random room in their basement and they're both being filtered the same. I want to maximize my cleaning. I want the cleanest possible air where I'm sleeping, where I'm working, in my living space, not like equally distributed. So that's HVAC.
I can't imagine that the filtration on the HVAC system, if it is there, that it's that good.
No,
right?
it's not. It's like a piece of paper. It's like a very, very thin filter to like $15 at Home Depot.
Like not actually probably doing much of anything.
So some people buy like an intense one thinking like that's the filter for their air. That's for like hair, dog fur, dust, a screw that falls in the vent not to break the motor and the furnace in your filter. It's like you have an oil filter in your car. Like, I mean, you have a cabin filter that's supposed to make your air cleaner in your car. Doesn't do very much. Like if you look at the filter, you're like, it's a joke. It's like if this little water bottle I'm holding, Airborne, was a HEPA filter, you even if it was the best filter in the world, it's way too small to do anything here. So people would look at like 99.99%, but because it's tiny, it's not moving the needle. So to finish, to answer your question, so outside, you have all the pollution stuff. So you have restaurants, you have cars, both their exhaust fumes, the rubbers from their tire. So you got like, where do you think that stuff goes?
They're always doing road construction work up here. Well, not always, but as of late they are. And I hate walking past there. Me and my husband hold our breath while we're going on our evening walk because it's like tar and all this stuff is like mucked up in the air. So.
And remember, like if you smell something,
yeah,
whether it's trash, poo, or asphalt from road construction, if you're smelling it, it's because you're breathing it.
I know.
So like, and for example, your digestive system is way better. It has way more intense filtration systems and acids and stuff in your gut than your respiratory system. Yeah. So like, arguably, it'd be less harmful to have a little spoonful of whatever it is than be inhaling it, direct into your bloodstream.
I know. That's why we like literally hold our breath and just walk us.
And smell is a beautiful thing. Like I used to have a horrible sense of smell. Thank God I fixed it.
Yeah, good.
I can breathe. I can smell things. And it's just like, what an incredible tool to navigate the world with. So yeah, outside, you got all the car stuff. You got the restaurants. You got the factories. You got the Roundup. Even if you're not using Roundup on your lawn, glyphosate, everybody is.
100% airborne because I do this test. I do like, these thousands of labs every quarter and I look at a total toxic burden and my toxins are so low and glyphosate is low, but it's still present. And I have not eaten a piece of inorganic food in over a decade.
Right.
So and obviously we have Jaspers throughout the house. So I don't think it's this environment, but just being out in the world, travel, you're somehow getting glyphosate exposure. Yeah,
there's certain things you just can't avoid. It's like we're always breathing mold, we're always breathing pollen, we always have some heavy metals. There was a crazy study in the UK that showed the average human breathes 1 credit card worth of microplastics every week.
Yeah.
So if you think about that, they went deep. They tested people's dust. They tested their air. Like 98% of every sample had microplastics. And indoor air had like 5 to 7 times more than outdoor air. So you think it as like this outdoor issue, but it all comes inside. And then outside air is way better than inside air.
Yeah.
Because nature's air purifier is sun, UV light, the best UV light of all time, wind, natural hydroxyl radicals, stir in the pot, rain to wash things away, and then trees. So indoors, we left those 4 things outside.
Yeah.
Might have a little plant, but it's not the same as thousands of trees. So yeah, outdoor, you got all the pollution, the allergens, the mold, wildfire smoke, depending on the time of the year, or if it's winter in some places and people are using their fireplaces, that can be pretty rough too. And then indoor pollution, so you have all that stuff, but then you also have your VOCs from your furniture, from your carpets, the fire retardants on your couch, there's tons of PFAs and all that stuff. Your paint, your drywall, your flooring, your cabinets,
your bed probably.
Oh yeah, bed, crazy amount of formaldehyde in most beds. You've got and I'm speaking generally, your house and the way you live is not normal or ordinary, but I mean, it can't be perfect. So you have all the chemicals that people clean with. The dishwasher soap. And dishwashers are one of the only appliances that aerosolize that don't vent outside. So if you have a stove or an oven, it vents outside. If you have a dryer, it vents outside. Why do you think it smells so soapy when people use their dishwasher? Like at the end, you get like a nice cloud of toxic steam to end off the cycle, just letting you know your dishes are clean. So yeah, inside it's like everything. And then then you got the mold. People have pets. That takes it to a whole new level. And then cooking.
Yeah.
Cooking is big. People just think like, how bad could it be even if they're eating healthy food? When you have high heat and protein, it creates PAH, which is polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. It's the same exact thing. When we were doing wildfire smoke remediation after huge fires, we'd be testing homes for hexchrome, PAH, and a few other things. But the same thing we were testing after wildfires is the same thing when you cook. And it's not just, you're not just, getting the grass-fed steak with your oil, or the butter or your tallow or whatever. It's the byproducts of that high heat and the protein that gets created. And then if it's not being adequately vented, all of those airborne particulates make their way into the couches, the carpets, everything that's porous that can absorb stuff gets filled with those particulates. So then whenever you're walking on it, or the air is blowing on it, or your dog runs across it, or your kid's on it, it just keeps recirculating itself. An analogy I really like to use is if you think about if water is to fish what air is to people. Our homes are like fish bowls.
Yeah.
So people are obsessively cleaning their counters, mopping their floors, vacuuming their surfaces, washing their dishes, or wiping all the surfaces. That's like having a fish tank. And every day you clean the bowl, but you don't change the water or filter the water.
Yeah.
Very quickly, that's going to be like murky green water. That's disgusting, even though you're wiping the perimeter of the bowl every day. And our indoor air is very much the same.
Yeah.
If you're not changing it and you're not filtering it, you can wipe the walls and the counters all you want, but a good hygienic home, you should have an integrated approach of surface cleaning and air cleaning, and then collectively, the fish tank will be clean.
I love that.
Hi guys, I'm going to interrupt this episode for a brief announcement. As you may or may not know, I started a community for females by females, and it's a female longevity optimization community. This is a place that you can connect with like-minded women. We are all here to support each other, and there's a variety of different benefits to being a member. You get a monthly Ask Me Anything, so submit your questions and I'll answer them directly. We also have an entire library of courses on all of the important components of longevity, such as labs, nutrition, exercise, sleep optimization, longevity optimization protocols that I'm doing, along with real-time updates to my personal protocols. There are so many benefits of being a member of the community. We'll also be doing in-person live events here in California and virtual events for anyone that can't attend. But if you're interested in joining the community, I would absolutely love to see you there. And I will include a link in the show notes.
And you're so right about the cooking thing. So I make dinner every single night for us. And anytime I go to cook a steak, so I'll put the steak in the sous vide. We always do, of course, grass-fed, grass-finished Wagyu. It tastes amazing. But I put the steak in the sous vide with a silicone, not a plastic bag. But then every time I go to put it on the cast iron, I just do 30 seconds on each side or so. Jaspr kicks up like right away. That's actually why, if you notice, I had it positioned like near the kitchen because I wanted to help fix the air after.
So it might actually be better off on the other side of the room.
Really?
Yeah, you should test it because if you think about it, the air is going up and air creates like a pattern, kind of like a current. So like oftentimes I have a Jaspr, my Jaspr that's 40 feet from my stove, and then I have one about 15 feet away. And often the 40-foot one kicks on way before the other one.
Interesting.
So just proximity, as long as it's in that same room, I would just put it in the most convenient place. And like, if you think about it, if someone uses sunscreen at the beach, you smell that thing like 100 feet away in every direction.
Yeah.
Meaning like, and it's not just you. Imagine there's 50 people all around. You all smell it. So all of that air just got filled very quickly. If you took a bowl of water and you added 2 or 3 drops of red food coloring, within a couple seconds, all of the water is perfectly equally distributed. So your air is the same. So the proximity and the location thing, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because also, so the Jaspr in my office will kick on too
When you're cooking?
When I'm cooking.
Yeah, especially if your HVAC is running. Like I've seen 4,000 or 5,000 square foot home. Kitty uses a litter bucket. And within a few seconds, the entire home, every Jasper's red.
Oh my gosh. See, this is why I'm not having a cat.
It's not bad yet.
I can't imagine. I don't want poop to be in the house in a box. It feels so unnatural.
When people do that with their babies.
I heard the story. I mean, this makes a lot of sense. Tell the story because
people got mad at me on the Instagram for that one.
Why?
It was really funny. Well, I'm pretty sure like people, I don't personally have any friends who comment on internet stuff.
Yeah.
There's a certain type of person, I don't know if it's bots or people, but they got lots of underscores in their name. And it's pretty funny. We had a couple Instagram videos do really good recently. And one of them was me telling the story about my wife, Rachel, who is, maybe I'll change how I tell the story, but it's the same story. No, I'll tell it the exact same. Okay, I don't care. It's the truth. It's the truth. It's the truth.
We'll just hold on that point because, lately my husband and I have gotten tons and tons of press and it's been such a blessing, right? It's very exciting. And yeah, I mean, my page went from being everyone that was on my page was like really loving and great and supportive. And it's kind of like shifted a little bit. And I've started to get these comments, just making claims. So you just can't worry about it because you're never going to please everybody. And whatever the type of person is that goes to someone's page that they don't know and that they don't follow to leave a
Give
comment.
them relationship advice.
Yeah. I'm like, this is very odd. I would never waste the time to do that ever.
Well, and I wasn't even thinking about it. My sister was like, have you seen the comments or whatever? I'm like, actually, I haven't. Yeah. He's like, you should look. And she was like hysterically laughing. And I had a hard time understanding why it mattered. And I still don't think it does. I'm like, okay, so let's say there's 50,000 views on a video, and likely there's a lot more. But let's just say there's 50 or 60,000. So that's a football stadium of people, an NFL team stadium filled with people. And out of that stadium, there's 50 or 60 drunk hooligans. Duh, we're at a football game.
Yeah.
Like, if you think about a stadium and then like a few freaking people like streaking and hooligans and all kinds of behaviors, when you like, it gives you like a container to view the amount of people.
Yeah.
Because like, it's like, those are the ones on the Jumbotron on the big screen, but like everybody else is just watching the game. So I'm like, look at the shares. Like, look at that stuff. Because most people that like a video, they share it with someone they care about.
Yeah, that's
instead
true.
of like give a comment. So basically, when my daughter Aria was like 6 months, we were living in British Columbia and we were using a diaper pail thing, and the room smelled like shit, real bad. And it dawned on me, luckily I had my air quality testing gadgets and I was able to test the air. But like when there's a lot of poo in the air, there's a bunch of bacteria. Obviously, there's poo in the air.
Yeah.
And so one thing people got mad about, they're like, there'd be no bacteria in the air. I'm like, have you tested it before? Yeah, there is. The other one is, so I was like, Rach, my wife's name, I was like, yo, it stinks like poo in there. It's probably gross for Aria. By the way, babies breathe 60 to 100,000 times a day. Adults breathe 10 to 20,000 times a day. The respiratory rate is super high.
Yeah.
So little baby's in there, can't even talk. It smells like poo. I'm like, I think we should take the diaper pail, like the pooey diapers, directly outside. And Rachel was like, no. Like, yo, that's a lot of work, man. First baby, it was.
Yeah.
Rightfully so. And I mean, this was my suggestion, and she disagreed kindly. And I said, cool, tonight has a rite of passage. Let's put the diaper pail in our room and see what it feels like. But I'm going to sleep on the couch tonight. And she was like, it instantly clicked because she was like, I'm not doing that. And then as soon as she realized it, she never put the pooey diapers in the room again because these diaper pails are supposed to be airtight and they're not. So most people were like, take out the trash with the husband. They're like, I hear a guy who's useless. How about you take out the trash? So it was funny. I enjoyed the banter. I actually tagged Rachel in some of those comments and stuff.
Yeah.
And then I had a couple people to my defense, but it was just really funny. And then it's true. So my sister's feedback is like, why don't you reframe that story to, why don't we take out the trash instead of why don't you take out the trash? I'm like, you know what? That's okay. Like really, it was kind of a team effort.
Yeah.
We do make the decisions together, but she was definitely chief diaper officer for sure.
Yeah, I mean, but you know what? I'll just say this: we're at a time in society where, you know what? First of all, people's marriages internally should be able to work how they want to work, and it's not the internet's job to like judge that. But also, it's okay for men and women to have different jobs within a household. That's fine. Like in my house, my husband does take out the trash, but I take out the trash in my own office and I put it in the bigger trash.
I do trash.
He then puts the trash out, right? But I cook all the meals. It's okay. Like we don't all have to do everything together. And
Exactly.
I know that we love that, like at this point in society, but it's okay for there to be delineation within the home. I think it's actually far more efficient.
She was a labor and delivery nurse. And then, you know, when we were living in Canada, her shift was 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Yeah, that's shifts.
So in Canada, in the winter, it's pitch black from like 5 a.m. So the sun goes down at like 4 p.m. And then, so you wake up and it's black.
Mm-hmm.
And then she drives to work and there's no windows in the hospital, works 12-hour shifts in bright light, and then leaves and it's pitch black, drives home in the blizzard. So she could go days without seeing the sun.
Horrible.
And then driving in blizzards both ways. Yeah. So we had kids. It's like I stepped up, you know, the work game, and she was able to stay at home. She's like, this is my dream. Mm-hmm. Like being with my young children at home, doing like motherly stuff. She's like, I'm blessed that I get to do this. I don't want help at the house.
Yeah.
So, and then, you know, people would judge on that, which is totally fine. But I was like, we were very happy that she had no money stress. She doesn't know where the money comes from.
Yeah.
And that this was a really reasonable trade. So yeah, now hopefully by the time this drops, I won't say the name of it, but we're in the process of buying a school.
Oh, amazing.
That she will run. So now everything changes. Now it's a full. We got to get more help, and we got to rearrange the whole thing because now it's like she's gonna have a business.
Are you gonna do like a unschooling type school or like traditional type school?
It's a Montessori. Been in business for 25 years. It's an amazing school. But we're going to make it more amazing, more entrepreneurial. So typically, either like homeschool, super lonely and has its own challenges, even though there's really cool things to like about it. Yeah. But it's like lonely. You're like, one for the mom or the dad or whoever's running the school. You're like a solo school. You're the principal, you're the teacher, you're the disciplinarian. There's no kids. You're trying to find programs and stuff.
Well, so my husband was one of 6 and his mom homeschooled them all.
Yeah.
And we're going to homeschool too when we have kids. But I'm excited because sometimes people like they band together in community.
This is the best.
Yeah. So then it's like it doesn't have to be so lonely. You know, like here I'm excited because like my friend Dr. Casey, she can like do the health and metabolic health of like the kids programming or something if we all live near 100%. Each other. You know what I mean? So you still get like some community. But
like that's really dependent on like where you live. And if you have a community,
totally.
But that's totally an option. Then public school is just rough and sucks. Like no way.
Yeah, no way.
So then there's like these fancy private schools where it's like they're trying to teach them all to be like valedictorian track stars. Super weird there too. They don't go outside. And then there's these awesome like nature schools. And I'm generalizing. There's like these awesome nature schools, but it's not too hippie. I kind of like the hippie stuff, honestly, but like they don't learn anything.
Oh.
So with this school, it's like a really good balance, like huge screened in porches. So they can learn stuff with fresh air. It's only like 60, 70 kids, 6 or 7 teachers. Everybody drives their golf cart or walks there. It's like a very small community feel. And then we're going to start to bring in like entrepreneurs and local teachers. And even though the kids are 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, there's going to be an hour and a half of physical exercise every day.
Good.
They got rid of gym. They got rid of gym in school.
Everything about school is so unnatural. It's like waking up at an unnatural time, being seated in a chair and being extremely focused. You're in trouble or have ADHD if you don't, or ADD.
It's crazy.
Like, you're not meant to be a kid and sitting in a chair all day long and then not having exercise. I've heard, that gyms are like gym sessions or classes are now like going by the wayside because they're not like inclusive or something.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know. It's very weird in schools right now.
And then, there's a term there's a thing I've been obsessing over lately. Have you ever heard of this term called zoochosis?
No.
Zoochosis is what happens to animals in captivity.
Yeah.
So elephants live 17 years in zoos and 55 years in the wild. Dolphins swim 100 miles a day in the ocean and like none in captivity. So whether it's the primates, the birds, whatever, when they study all the animals in captivity are struggling.
Yeah.
Depression, anxiety, mental health, cancer, autoimmune, diet, like all this stuff.
So unnatural.
I'm like, sounds like another type of animal, right?
Yeah.
So if you think about it, this blows my mind. So the average American, Western world, we spend over 95% of our time indoors.
Mm-hmm.
And like probably for a lot of people, it's more like 99.
Yeah.
So that means the average prisoner in a maximum security prison who's getting an hour or two outside in the yard is spending more time outside with community and fresh air and sun than the average free person.
I mean, yeah, I'm not surprised, I mean, I definitely can see how people, it's like moving from box to box to box. I gave a talk last night here in LA on female health, and then I said the exact same thing. It's like you move from your house, which is a box, to your car, to a box, to your office, which is a box. This is so unnatural. And like we see it in the statistics. I mean, chronic disease, air is a huge part of it, but also being inside, being sedentary, not moving our bodies. All of it is all contributing,
Yeah, so then it's like we have, I call subdivisions, suburbs, the zoo, and the homes, the cages. Same with apartment buildings, like the building is the zoo and your unit's a cage. And I haven't been able to like unsee it. And then I started looking at like all the health trends and then looking at animals in captivity, and it's like, it's the same exact thing.
Totally. I mean,
so, and then what's the average home? It breaks my heart when you hear like, America has a housing shortage. We're short 4 million units. So we need to build 4 million units by 2031. It's like, why you're calling them units, which makes you manufacture them. Like they're coming off an assembly line. Yeah. So like you cut down the whole forest, you build thousands of cookie cutter homes with horrible materials as fast as you can. Don't let anything breathe. And then they're just no point in the process is the architect and the developer and the builder saying, how do we make the most healthy homes possible? Even think about the layout of the average home. The living room for living is typically 2 couches facing a TV on the wall. So it's like, hey, get off your screens, kids. Family time. Let's all go to the living room and watch the giant iPad together.
Yeah.
So the layout of the home, the layout of the community, the off-gassing, the building materials, the water, the whole thing. So it's like if you think the food problem is going to be hard to solve, we got millions of homes that are built poorly. So to me, Jaspr is like this Band-Aid solution. The reason that the logo is a tree and a mountain is because we should strive for a world where you don't need water filters or air purifiers anymore. Yeah. Ideally, we shouldn't need to filter our air because the air was perfect as it was intended to be. We just keep messing up the air. But I do believe that things usually get worse before they get better. So I really, if you look at air over the centuries, it's actually way better than it was 100 years ago because so much power was coal and fire and smoke. Yeah. So the amount of it's actually trending in a good direction. There's plastics and, we have pollutions in cars and other things and it's not perfect. But I do actually think overall it's moving in a decent direction. But I view Jaspr as like this cheap Band-Aid solution, cheaper than buying a new house and building like a custom home in the jungle. The best thing you could do for air is like move to the rainforest. Yeah. But for everybody else, we kind of have to work with what we got. Yeah.
I mean, our ultimate goal is I'm going to hire like a biological home builder, move out in the middle of nowhere, biodynamic farm, the whole 9 yards, super fresh air, but I'll still have Jaspers then. I'll still have air filter, like super great air filtration then, because I just think it's like a bedrock of a healthy home all the time. I could walk through, like even our couch in there is like a non-toxic couch. Our bed is 100% organic, got certified. But if I were to start with just one place, I would start with the air and I would start with the water. If you can just clean up those two, you're already going to be immensely better in terms of health than without. So I love that.
And they take no willpower.
Yeah, totally. They just work out.
It costs money and then you plug them in and they work. And you know, usually the stuff that's good for us is bad for us. Like horrible food, it could be, I mean, you've maybe gone past that point.
Yeah.
But for the rest of us, like delicious, horrible burgers, fries, fats, salts, addictive food, it's delicious and it's addictive and it's associated with sports and the chicken wings and all that stuff. And typically like super healthy, clean food is not as delicious as the bad food and the snacks and the junk food.
Well, that's because it's like engineered to be addicting, right? Like these foods that you're kind of referring to.
Yes.
Like there's food scientists making it. I'm sure you know that.
Yeah,
but
totally.
It's like they're creating it to be addictive, whereas the cow's not creating the steak to be like addictive.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean?
But like I completely agree.
Mm-hmm.
But like normally, often the bad behaviors are like the path of least resistance. Like it's easier to go down that path. But when you talk about, nobody prefers a glass of shitty tap water to filtered water or gross air to good air. So it's like this guy Dean Jackson called Jaspr the laziest way to be healthy.
That's a great
Because it's
point.
like, and like every day your willpower won't be dialed in. You might not go to the gym that day.
Yeah.
My willpower certainly wanes, but at least when it's a bad productivity day or I didn't get the steps in or whatever, it's like if I drink filtered water and I breathe filtered air all day, like at least my floor is that much higher.
That's true. That's very true. So it's HEPA filtration, right?
And carbon.
So can you walk us through what those both mean and what they're both doing?
HEPA just means high efficiency particulate air.
Okay.
And truthfully, most air purifiers have great filters in them.
Okay.
Most of them, even the cheap $99, $2.99 filters, the filters themselves are pretty good.
Okay.
The reason they don't work at all is they're too small.
Mm.
So the other filter is called a carbon filter or activated carbon. And that is, so the HEPA is designed to filter particles,
Okay.
mold, smoke, bacteria, things you could see under a microscope, physical particles.
Mm-hmm.
The carbon is designed for gases and odors. So it doesn't filter things, it absorbs things.
Got
So
it.
gas will flow right through a filter,
Mm-hmm.
but through a HEPA filter,
Yeah.
which is just like pleated kind of piss and paper,
Mm-hmm.
very tight.
Yeah.
And then you have a pre-filter, which is designed to capture big particulate. But like most filters have a reasonably good filter. It will capture almost all the particles. The problem is if they're tiny, they're not changing enough air. So it's like if you have a 10 by 10 room with a space heater, might warm the room up. But if you put it into your big open home, you can't use a space heater instead of a furnace. It's too small to get the job done. So unfortunately, everybody thinks through buying stuff through the lens of an Amazon filter. So they just say extra large. It's like a TV makes sense. How many inches? Okay, 4K. Like it's kind of binary. Like I want 4K, I want a 75-inch TV for my wall. It works. It makes sense. They started to try to do the same thing with air purifiers and square footage. Square footage has nothing to do with air purifiers.
Yeah.
Because it's cubic volume. People are like, how many square feet does it cover? This is the normal number one question someone asks when they're buying air purifiers is, how many square feet does it cover? The worst question ever. Cubic volume is what matters, which is length times width times height.
Mm-hmm.
But your HVAC system matters. How much is it mixing the air in your home? So if you go to Target, you'll see an air purifier for $2.99.
Mm-hmm.
And it says extra large air purifier, multi-room, 1,500 square feet. What they didn't tell you is, what does covered mean? Does covered means the air is 1% cleaner or 80% cleaner? They leave that part out. So it's really a lot of trickery. They say our filter filters 99.97, whatever. Great. That's per pass. It's not moving enough air. And then they show you the extra large rooms.
Yeah.
So I say Jaspr filters up to about 1,000 square feet
Okay.
with 8-foot ceilings
Okay.
in one main open room. If I was using the same benchmark that like the $200 air purifiers were, we would be saying 7,000 or 9,000 square feet.
Okay.
This is not true. So they're not telling you how much it cleans the air in the room. So yeah, the big problem with most filters is their fans and their motors are way too tiny.
Okay.
They're often made from plastic,
Yeah.
which is decomposing itself in your home.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it breaks my heart that the average consumer electronic has a 1-year warranty. They would love to have a 3 or a 5 or a 10-year warranty, but they can't because they would sell more, but they know their products don't last that much longer than a year.
Yeah.
So a big difference in that we were able to do is by using commercial grade steel, commercial grade fans and motors, I expect the average Jaspr to last about 30 years.
Wow.
So that's why we kind of went with like a timeless steel design. Because if they break, it's on us. We have to ship you a brand new one and cover the shipping both ways. So I enjoyed this challenge as a business to try to like make a company that made us put our money where our mouth was. So
Yeah.
things start breaking, we're screwed.
Yeah.
We have to keep, whereas an average trend now in consumer electronics is planned obsolescence. They want to make the TV or the fridge or whatever, where back in the day, your stove would last you like a generation. And now you're changing all your appliances every 5 years. Like we can save all the little plastic bags that we want. But like when we're replacing like our cars every like 3 years and our appliances every 5 or 7 years, it's crazy talk.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. So just so I have a full grasp, it's not the square feet. You need to do the cubic volume, which is like the ceiling, the floor to ceiling, and the width. And but how do you, so if you're
just
about
to keep
to buy,
it simple for someone though, it's really simple. So I'll bring it back to simplicity because, you know, it's complex, but then we can bring it to simple.
Okay.
You typically would want, if you want whole home if you want filtered air in one bedroom, just your bedroom, one is good. Put it in your bedroom. Then if you want whole home filtered air, you're going to need one per bedroom and one in your living room.
Okay.
So it's really more about a room thing. If you have a massive living room, great room, 20-foot vaulted ceilings, huge space, then you put two in the living room. And if someone doesn't care about noise, like those little cheap plastic ones, if they're in a bedroom on full speed, they still do a half decent job, actually. Same with the DIY air purifiers. You can make your own air purifier for like $150. It's pretty good.
Really?
It's way better than most of the stuff that you see at the store. The problem is typically it's loud and it's ugly.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can get a kettle at Walmart for $19, heats your water just fine, looks like trash, you put it in the counter. But if you're just a kid in college, who cares? You're going to get the cheap kettle. There's something for everybody. But if you're like, I want it to look good on my counter, I don't want it to be plastic, I'm going to get a glass one or a metal one and pay $80 or $90. That's sort of the category we're in. So people have a choice when they look at a market. It's like you can get something that's really effective, but it's going to be loud and ugly, but it'll do a great job. Or you can get something cute and cheap, but it won't be effective.
Yeah.
Or you can get something that's kind of why Jaspr is $1,000 and not $400, because we made something that was beautiful and effective. So for somebody who cares that it looks beautiful in their home and it can go against the corner, we make sense. For people who don't care about that, we don't make sense.
Yeah, no, I mean, it definitely is beautiful. And it's actually the first air purifier that I've put inside of our actual living space, because I before just had them in the peripheral.
Right.
Because I've, worked hard to try to have a wabi-sabi type feel upstairs. And it's like this, matte white, like eggshell. Is that the color of the Jaspr, do you call it?
I don't know. People have different names for it. Some kind of off-white.
Yeah, like
eggshell works.
Eggshell. And yeah,
free-range chicken
metal.
and egg.
Free-range chicken, yeah. Eggshell. That's the one. Exactly.
That should be the name of the color.
I love
free-range chicken eggshell.
Yeah, that should be the color. But it's beautiful, and you can just tell it's super sturdy. And your guys' customer service, we've talked about it before, but that's like another huge, amazing part of your company.
For the first 3 years, we didn't have e-commerce. For the first year, the only way you could buy Jaspr was to call me. Literally, call me or Thomas or Nick. There's 3 of us at the time.
Wow.
Literally, so for the first 1,000 customers, most of them were dentists and doctors. Back then, Jaspr was $2,000 because we only sold to doctors. We used to be called Jaspr Medical.
Oh, wow.
And then we got it down to $13.99 and now closer to $1,000. And the big thing that we learned by literally, if you wanted to buy it, there was request a quote, there was free consultation, and there was call us. And we just had a phone number. Because my background was the mold removal guy, the blood, the fire. I was like a local blue collar guy that would come to your house in a pickup truck, and my name was probably Mike the Mold Man in your phone.
Yeah.
So when I started manufacturing Jaspr, I was still operating like a local. We would deliver the units, we would take away the packaging. I was still running it like a local business, and then it's like, oh, this is dumb. I never thought in a million years somebody would buy an air purifier for over $1,000 on the internet.
Really?
I didn't know anything about e-commerce.
Yeah.
So people would call us. They'd tell us about their mold situation, about their allergies, about their asthma, about their sleep problems. We would talk on the phone for an hour, and then I'd send them a quote. I was literally running it like a home service
How long was
system.
this?
4 years.
Oh my God.
2020 during COVID.
Wow.
That's how we operated. It took me 3 years to develop the product. And then I was doing it the way I always did stuff. And then in 2023, in January, I'm like, let's try turning on the e-commerce button. And the funny thing is, within 1 minute, someone bought one.
Oh my
I'm like, this is a joke. Like, Rach, was that you?
Yeah.
But it's funny because like we were only selling like one a day at the time. So it was such a fluke.
Yeah.
That within like a minute or two of turning on the Shopify thing, like ching, $13.99, woohoo.
Wow.
So now I'm like, oh, instead of talking to every customer one at a time on the phone for an hour or two, why don't you just go on podcasts, find people who have health-aware, conscious audiences, teach them a thing or two, and then they tell other people.
Yeah.
This is the coolest thing ever.
It
As
is.
someone who was driving to the house, being Mike the mold man in your phone, this is way better.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I agree. But you're creating a great product, and that's what really matters. You know, I've spent so much time in my life. Like, I'm not new to this industry by any means. Like, and it's been a slow build to like get to, you know, kind of the level over here. But I've had to spend so much time researching products, and it's so nice that you've built something that it's just the best. And then you don't have to question everything else. So I think that you guys are going to do a special code for the audience, right?
We are going to, yes. So there's a reason why you can't find Jaspr at Best Buy, at Walmart, at Amazon. We don't sell through any of those places. And there's two reasons why. Number one, if we sold directly through them, we wouldn't have the ability to come talk to health conscious audiences like yours and give them good savings because it would all go to the retailer. But the real reason why is because when you buy something at Amazon or Best Buy and it doesn't work, you just go. There's no one who knows anything about the product, knows anything about your situation, and you just return it and you're frustrated and you lost half a day.
Yeah.
So the reason why we work with customers directly is literally if someone calls us or texts us about their situation, they're going to get a few-minute voice note back from someone on our team. We don't have a sales department or a customer support department. We only have people who are like in the field as air quality experts. So we just have an education department, and whether you're a Jaspr customer or not, we just talk to you all the same. So what that allows us to do is when we're going on podcasts and talking to a health conscious audience, give people an awesome discount. Also, Black Friday's coming up.
Yes, it is.
It's going to be next week because today is November 22. So what we're going to do is Jaspers are typically $11.99. So we're going to have a $400 off code.
Oh my gosh, that's a great savings.
And I will tell you right now, by Black Friday, our pre-order, like our back orders are probably, it could be 6 to 8 weeks.
Wow.
It could be 6 to 8 weeks. So like November 22nd. So what we're going to do is November 22nd through December 2nd, the code's going to be live. But this deal, when you're hearing it now, it won't be anywhere on our website. It won't be on our social media. It won't be on our email. It'll be nowhere. It's only going to be exclusive for your community and those who are listening to this episode early, November 22nd, today. So the code is Kayla, and the website is Jaspr Co, Jaspr.co, no E. Yeah. The code is Kayla. So not only is it $400 off, if you buy more than one, we have bundled discounts in our website too. So if someone buys 2, 3, or 4, they save an additional 10, 15, or 20%. So it's $400.
Amazing.
So basically, it starts basically from $7.99. Normally retails $11.99.
Yeah.
Somebody buys one at $7.99. Up to 4, it gets as low as $6.25 each.
Dang.
And if, let's say somebody buys 4 and then like they split it with a friend or a family, whatever, they just message us. We'll create a custom code with them. So then a few people can each get their own filters and their warranty and all that, but share on that group price together.
That's amazing.
So for anybody out there who's been thinking about clean air, this is your sign. And hopefully that helps some people.
I love that. I mean, if you have the ability to stock up, I would highly recommend it. I mean, we have one in almost every room. We're going to have now one in every, one more is coming. So we'll have one in every room. And I literally can't think of a better gift to give yourself, your family, someone that you love than clean air.
And if someone, I love it. So some people buy it for their baby's nursery.
Yeah.
And the coolest thing is that kid, if that kid's going to go to college, that kid will take the same Jaspr to college that they have in their baby's room now. And like, because the way the warranty works, if it ever breaks, we ship a brand new one the next day. You take the new one out of the box. You put the old one back in the box. In there, you'll already find a prepaid shipping label that we covered.
Love it.
And then we schedule UPS to come to your front porch and pick it up.
So nice.
Because I hate when I have a product with a warranty and they want my receipt and video and pre-authorize my credit card. And then I got to get a weird shaped box. Then I got to go to FedEx. I just spent half a day.
Yeah.
So we're like, let's make that a Jaspr problem and not a customer problem. So if that kid's in college and 15 years later, like we call it the last air purifier you'll ever need to buy.
I love that. That's quality through and through.
That was fun.
I love that. Well, I have one more question.
I'm here for it.
You know what I've been thinking a lot about is chemtrails. What do you think about that? I mean, I don't know if it's like getting inside. What are they spraying in the air?
I have no idea, because even if I stood out here with my particulate meter, it'd be impossible for me to like, unless I like bought a prop plane and like followed it, which, hey, we could do it sometime.
Yeah, we might want
First, my initiative next year, which anyone here wants to be a part of, keep your eye on us. We're going to do a big campaign to ban scents in Ubers.
Yeah, I know. It should be an option. You know how in Uber it says like
that would be the ultimate goal.
No.
It's like Uber X, Uber Pet, Uber Green. How about Uber scent free?
Yeah,
Uber Fresh.
toxin free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uber toxin free.
I love
So
that.
once we tackle that, then we're going to tackle air fresheners and Airbnbs. And then we're going to get that prop plane and we're going to go in the sky and we're going to check out those chemtrails.
I think these are all great initiatives. You'll find this funny. Not everyone would, but like 2 or 3 years ago for Christmas, one of my friends, we were gym partners. I got into her car and I saw a little tree. You know, this like little tree.
Oh, I know the little
I
tree.
jumped out. I was like, are you trying to poison yourself? I was like, you have to get that out. Like, I can't go in your car. We had to like walk across, go in my car. So anyway, for Christmas, she bought me like this white monochromatic little tree as a joke.
That's
but
funny.
it's so toxic.
So-
like, why do little trees exist?
They shouldn't.
I know. It's
The
horrible.
term air freshener is 10 times more searched on Google than air purification. So Ben Azadi, I don't know if you know this guy, but he's pretty awesome in the health space. Great podcast. And when we went for lunch after the pod, he carries a seed oil allergy card with him. So
great.
he has this card that goes, I'm allergic to, and then it names all the oils. He says, since I had the card, the server takes it to the chef and they take it 1,000 times more serious. So it's just the seed oil allergy card. So I've been thinking about creating these air awareness cards for people who like, imagine like I'd send it home my customers and they keep it with them. If you see someone sunscreening on the beach or the Uber driver and, you know, be in like English and Spanish, and it will like explain like what this is doing to your health.
Yeah.
And that way, instead of being like, because it's a hard thing to approach, right? You see mom's like blasting with sunscreen. You're going to just assume like some crazy lady. It's not going to land. It's not going to be impactful. But if there was like a beautifully designed card, like I think with enough thoughtfulness, it could land if it was positioned in the right way, or like giving the Uber driver like a card.
Yeah.
And maybe if they like read it, they get like some Starbucks. I don't know what we got to do here.
One time I very rarely take Ubers, but like I had to go in an Uber. I had to put my head literally outside. This is when I was living in Ohio. It was freezing cold outside. It was like downpouring snow. And I had to put my head outside of the car because the air freshener, it was a mixed air freshener and the cologne. It was like this horrible.
Last night's puke.
Is horrible. So I agree. I love that. It's really too bad you're not going to make a Jaspr air filter for cars.
Never say never. I have some things on the docket before that. I think the best thing in the car is open the windows. Fresh air is your best friend.
Yeah.
And this November 22 to December 2, code Kayla,
Yeah.
$400 off. Take advantage of it.
Please do, guys. I mean, this is so exciting. Thank you for doing that. That's super generous.
My pleasure.
So,
Giving the gift of clean air, there is no better feeling.
I love that. I love it. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
This podcast is for informational purposes only, and views expressed on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Kayla Barnes, does not accept responsibility for any possible adverse effects from the use of the information contained herein. Opinions of their guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. If you think you have a medical issue, consult a licensed physician.